Sponsored by the Moody Church. If there's one thing we've learned from the deadly attacks upon innocent Jewish families on October 7th, it's that God's chosen people of Israel must always be prepared. That's why we need your help. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is providing emergency bomb shelter kits with enough food and life-saving emergency supplies for 20 people huddled in a bomb shelter. These emergency bomb shelter kits contain food with canned goods, rice, soup, and bottled water. Each kit also includes a battery-powered radio, flashlights, cell phone chargers, hygiene products like toothbrushes and toothpaste, toilet paper, first aid kits, medicine, even baby wipes and diapers. The cost to put together and distribute each emergency bomb shelter kit with enough food and supplies for 20 people is significant. Your donation today of any amount to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews will help place these emergency bomb shelter kits in bomb shelters across Israel. Whatever the Lord leads you to give will help protect innocent Jewish families in the event of a future attack. And when you give today, your donation of any amount will be doubled, thanks to a special matching challenge this month from fellowship donors. A $50 donation will double in impact to $100. A gift of $100 becomes $200. A $500 donation will have double the impact to $1,000. The next attack on the Holy Land could come at any time. It's not a question of if or when, but when. Here's how you can reach us to make your donation of any amount to the life-saving work of the fellowship. 800-673-3388. That's 800-673-3388. The call is quick and easy, and we
morning,
with
good
that.
morning,
But
good morning.
yeah, it's definitely kind of a wild story. Can you take us back to that? Like, how many kids did you have? What went on in your life? What did you feel? Take us back. Sure. So, our son with disabilities is the fourth in our lineup of five, and he had, you know, had a really typical pregnancy with him, a typical birth, and so it wasn't until he was about 3 to 6 months old that we noticed some things that were a little strange about him. He smiled and laughed, but he only rolled over once, and then he never really rolled over again. He kind of scooped to get around. He was not sitting up on his own. He had a hard time holding his head up. And so we went to the doctor and just said, what's going on here? This seems a little odd. We weren't super concerned. And, you know, she had a really hopeful prognosis. You know, oh, it's your fourth child. He's probably really laid back. He'll catch up. We don't really notice anything. And months went by, and he just was not improving. He was not meeting his milestones at all. So it really
What was going on in your mind?
you know, I had some fear. You know, there was part of me that was thinking of the worst case scenario.
Okay.
But no one had told us that yet, and I was really busy with my hands full with other kids. So there was like this low level anxiety, but I had not gone to
Pabili
the worst
Jollibee,
of the worst
breakfast.
in my mind yet, which we'll get to
Yung,
because I think we have
yung,
different
yung
stories here. But it started us down a path of understanding
tapsilog.
what was going on. And eventually, when he was around a year old, after we'd done MRIs and we did all this testing, we found out through a genetic test that he had a very rare genetic syndrome. And so he has like one
Yung
piece
tapsilog, tosilog, corn silog.
flipped upside down. And it's affected everything about him developmentally. And his doctor at the time said, oh, he'll be walking into preschool, like he might be a little bit behind, get him in therapy, you know, everything will probably be good. Well, you know, he
Close
was
pa?
not walking into preschool. In
Agad
fact, he did
ang
not walk until he was 7. So he's only been walking
Anong oras magbubukas? Alas 10?
chair. He's still totally nonverbal, so he does not talk at all. He uses a communication device, you know, occasionally, and he has just really significant delays in every area. And so I would say our grieving process, my husband and I, has always been a little bit abnormal because at the beginning we had such a good prognosis
alas
with
6
his
ano?
and then every year
Anong oras ba sila nagbubukas?
the gap was
Weather
really
is 52 degrees.
years. It's not a hard handle. It's not disabilities are not a serious handle with that. And then he is strong. You know, this book was kind of after a cascade of events, and one of those for me was he had his first seizure.
Magdamag mahangin kagabi
And so
hanggang ngayon.
these major medical things to still, you know, is already extremely tough. Really, it was just like I didn't know what was under me in my life, and it made me face my own weakness. So that's a little bit of our story, but you guys can have a different story. Sure. Yeah, I was pregnant with my daughter. She is the youngest of my 3
Good
children.
morning sa mga nakabidi eh. Happy Friday. Mga kumare mo yan. Siguro mga kumare mo.
But it seemed like she did it right away. So at 2 months old, though, I really lobbied pretty heavily for genetic testing because my gut just said something is off. And we ended up being able to get that, and she was diagnosed about 3 or 4 weeks later. We were told that she has a genetic abnormality, which is kind of similar to my nephew and my son, but actually wholly completely different in the sense that for her, she has a duplication and inversion of 540 genes. So very different than a single, and it's again unrelated.
Friday na Friday na platan.
It affects her globally, but we knew that right from the outset. And the doctor said, hey, she's the only one in the world with what she has. We've never seen anything like this. This is the only one. I know pretty well. They said, well, we hope that some of those are somewhat similar to her, and we can make some predictions. So we got about 5 pages of all the things that could potentially be complications for her, and that set us down a very big, medical need situation, and we were doing surgery.
Bitaw na si Araw.
Disabilities, and to just show them what it looks like to have a friend with disabilities, and to teach them what the amount of day is, which I know is a concept a lot of parents want to teach. So, of course, I also was thinking of my nephew John's class. I wrote that one too, and we have both Emily and I have a lot of touch points with others with disabilities, and so it seems like God's been writing that into our stories for a long time.
I was with a group of 130 women the other night, and I just asked the women with children that have any sort of disability to stand. And I was amazed at how many there were. And then we had all the women around them lay hands on them and pray for them. And as they did that, these moms sobbed because they feel so alone. And they don't have a lot of people to talk to or to vent with or to complain and share. And I'm thinking as I look at you, like, isn't it sweet that you have each other? That, what has that been like? Have you needed one another in these days?
Absolutely. It's been a gift in the midst of a really hard situation. Definitely a provision from God. I mean, I think that one of the things that's hard about being
Naunahan ako
married
ng
to a
babae,
child with
naunahan ako,
disability is
naunahan
that
ako.
you look at other families.
She paid
It's just,
me.
it's night and day.
She
You
paid
almost
me.
can't compare. I was telling Laura, we were talking about, coming to Florida and all these different things. And I said, I just don't think we could bring our son here and do some of these things. And that's a real limitation for our family. It's not as easy as just, well, we'll pick up and go somewhere,
As a
right?
family.
As a family, there's like, we have emergency medication that needs to come, and you've got to worry about sensory things, and what are you going to do when there's a meltdown, and is it worth it? There's just so many challenges. And so you look around at other families and can get really discouraged by some of the limitations and
Sino
challenges
mauna
that
sa
are there,
atin,
and how
makarating?
easy it feels like other families have it. They don't even understand how easy they have it.
Mauna ka ba o
And
mauna
so
ako?
what's been nice is, Laura's not only my sister-in-law and my ministry partner, but she's also my best friend. And I think it would be so hard if I felt like, oh, she's doing these things as a mom and she doesn't understand my challenges, or when my son has a meltdown, or he pulls my hair, or he does whatever, like, she's not going to get it, but she does get it. And it's such a gift that we can just like make eye contact with each other, and she's not even it's or we can kind of bond over, oh, I had to carry my kid screaming out of this place. And it's very different than you're taking your 2-year-old to 7-year-old. Yeah, that's very different than a 2-year-old.
And people are looking at you.
Yeah, and they're wondering what's going. Yeah, they're telling you tips on how to raise your kid. So it's been a gift. It has been a gift, and I think that I know what we have is rare. Obviously very, very rare. But I think that it's been incredible to me to see what it's like to have a child with disabilities and in
Ay,
the day and age that we
naabutan
live
ako
in,
ng
how different
red
it is
light.
than it used to be. And I think there's a lot of hope. But just like you were talking about,
Red light.
people being aware and saying, hey, we want to pray for these moms who are really facing a very unique trial in their life. And it's something that I think with disabilities often, it's different than a different type of grief, because let's say you go through a death in the family, horrific, horrible. But you also, there's a finality to how do we learn to live within this knowledge? But with disabilities, it's very much an unfolding day by day of, like, for me, the news was maybe a little better than what I was told. But
Ito yung nakakatakot
the news
dito.
was actually
Ako,
harder for her. And there's so
magta-turn
much
left.
hope that you hold in there.
Magta-turn left ako dyan.
Disabilities, you
Kaso,
wanna believe
mag-i-stop ako sa middle.
basically just like normal or close to normal. That's what you tell yourself.
Ngayon,
But then there's
ang
this
nakakatakot,
slow waking up
pag
to
naka-stop
reality
ako,
that,
marami
oh,
na
this is not far off there.
hindi
And you
naka-pay
don't
attention
know
sa
that
likod
it's
ko.
still today. And look at my
Kaya
daughter.
kailangan ko
What that is.
makipagpatintero.
We're
Diba?
waiting. And every day we're walking forward, we're discovering new challenges, new painful moments, new milestones that just rip your heart out because your child didn't get them. And you need community. And so that's where, going back to having a child in this day and age,
Ngayong summer, nasisikatan kami ng araw pagpasok.
and I really think no mom should be walking this, or dad should be walking this path alone. And churches are doing more. I think I'm seeing more of them connecting families. There's online organizations. Something incredible is on Facebook. There's a group of parents that have children that are somewhat similar to my daughter, and they're not the same, but there's this group where we can share, maybe not Christian faith,
but we can share, oh, well, this is something medically that my child experienced. Oh, my child's 14. Here's what it looks like for us. And so there's been some camaraderie that can even be developed. And so for any parent who's out there who has a child with disabilities, I would just encourage them to seek out groups, seek out friendships and relationships, and don't walk the path alone, because you don't have to.
I talk often with parents who have kids with special needs or some sort of disability, and the other siblings are kind of remarkable
You
as a
can spot
result.
them, can't
Yes,
you?
exactly.
Yeah.
What does that look like for your families? Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it has really shaped our family culture. And, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn, and we are not at the end yet. So I don't have proof in the pudding. So I need all that to be out there. But I do consistently feel like I see in my children a compassionate heart being developed, one of a fairly endless patience, of understanding, and I see this in Emily's children as well, and even some other cousins that we have in our family that are close with us, just a heart for those that are overlooked. And, you know, I have seen my kids just go up to a young girl in a wheelchair who is nonverbal and is at our school and just lay their hand on her shoulder. Yeah, me too. I'm tender with it too, and just because they understand in a very unique way that other person is the Imago Dei, and they deserve what we say in our home is they deserve dignity but with compassion. And so oftentimes I think when it comes to seeing others with disabilities, we can often say we have pity, right? When my daughter was diagnosed, I felt pity for her. Like, oh, that stinks. I felt self-pity for me. You know, I have felt pity for Emily. I will confess that I have felt those things. And I think that's a very natural first response.
Nauna ako eh.
But then I think when we back up
Nauna ako sa'yo eh.
and apply the gospel, we can remember that no, every person on the planet is made in the image of God, and therefore they have inherent worth, value, and dignity. So for my kids to go up and spend time with another kid isn't based on whether they'll be more popular. It's not based on whether they're going to, you know, have more friendships or more success or be better at sports, or whatever it is. Instead, they know.
Sabay tayo?
I'm
O,
hoping
sige.
that they continue to learn to know that person deserves their presence simply because they're made in the image.
3.5 ka lang, malapit ka lang naman.
Feel for someone that we can say,
Malapit ka
I'm
lang
sorry
talaga.
this happened. We can still recognize the effects of the fall. We don't ignore
Ako,
it,
15 miles
but
ako
we
eh.
can still give them that worth and value through spending time with them, through speaking to them, through smiling, even when maybe we don't get a response back that
Dapat
we feel
nagkukang
like
ka na
is
lang eh.
appropriate socially, or
Nag-i-scooter ka na lang.
uncomfortable or awkward. That's something I talk to my kids all the time. This life isn't about you. You know, we say
Diba
in our
dapat
home,
nag-i-scooter
"My
ka
life
na lang
for
sa
yours."
lapit.
And what that means is that Christ gave his life for us, and therefore now we can give
Kaya
our life to
nagbabike.
others. And it's not in some self-sacrificial,
Nagbabike ka na lang.
way, but in a way that says this life isn't about me feeling comfortable. And I think when we get around people with disabilities, you learn real quick that, you know, I'm going to feel uncomfortable and awkward. They probably feel fine, you know? So anyway, Emily, what would you add? Anything?
It's interesting watching it through a child's eyes
16?
because
Ako,
they can hold sorrow and joy together.
1,
I think a lot better than an
2.
adult can sometimes. And so it's even been interesting watching our kids, you know, see our son have a seizure and they
3.
have that fear and, you know, processing through all of that. And 10
Mga
minutes later,
10 lang
they're
naman
back
sa
there
akin.
playing football and they're laughing again. And they can kind of transition in and out of that, you know, and they feel the weight of it, but they don't carry it in the same way that we do as an adult. And so sometimes I think about childlike faith and what it looks like to accept what God has given and have sorrow for the sad things and have joy in the good things and be able
Parang
to,
maginaw na hindi ah.
you know, and like to still laugh. So
Freeway
I
ba?
learned that from my kids
Ay,
a
hindi
lot.
ka ba
I'm actually
dumaan
a
ng freeway?
sibling of, someone with a disability, and that's my youngest brother, my only sibling. And so it's deeply affected my life. It's deeply shaped me. And it's hard for me to translate that to my own kids sometimes, to know like that's happening in their life too. But you've seen a lot of things like what Laura said. There's a kiddo in my twins' grade that, you know, their teacher was asking, what in the world? They were playing with a kiddo who doesn't talk the same way and is on the spectrum of different things. And they just went right over and playing. They were taking turns every other day playing with him at recess.
Sa bagay, kasi pag Friday naman minsan, wala masyado. Diba? Pag Friday. Usually dyan sa inyo, or dito rin sa amin kasi pag Friday parang konti lang eh. Ang busy talaga. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Tapos Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yan. Pag Friday na, hindi na masyado. Oo, naglayasan na sila. Sabi nila, nakarating na. Alis na tayo. Sabi. Ay, ganun ba dyan? Dito hindi eh. Pag Friday kasi parang marami kasi dito mga 4 days lang ang trabaho.
I don't know, just building some of those little blocks. It doesn't have to be this big, like, let's sit down. But over time,
Somebody
Oo, paano? Galit-galit muna tayo. Magka-clock in na ako. Have a good day and happy Friday. Happy Friday. Ano ba yan? Hindi ko makita ang aking kwan.
yeah, actually, it's very much written as an autobiography of our own life, for sure.
It's beautiful.